Hello, everyone. There is so much new on the screen for those of you who are returning to the Hexagon TTRPG. First and most importantly, I'm not home, and I think you know where I am if you've watched any episode. I'm at my good old friend Steam's place. So not only is he not here, but he couldn't be here even if he wanted to because I
So dox him too hard.
Took over his place.
But there is a new face here. It's not Peter, and it's not Simon, so it must be the only one left. A face you might have recognized if you've ever seen an episode of the would-be heroes of the Marvel multiverse, the
Marvel Multiverse RPG.
There you go.
RPG every Saturday and Monday on the Would-Be Heroes Twitch channel. Our good friend from the bacon-flavored podcast, John, aka Cribs Bacon.
Hello, I'm here. Despite my internal schedule trying to sabotage me at every turn today.
Can you
Appreciate you making me laugh.
Can you tell our good friends what you do in the TTRPG space?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I actually wrote up a little intro for myself.
Ooh.
Let's see if I can get through this without flubbing. Alright. So, yeah, I'm a fan of all sorts of tabletop RPGs. I started my RPG degradation back in 2006 when my Spanish teacher sponsored a tabletop club in my high school. We played Vampire the Masquerade and D&D 5e. Didn't have a lot of fun with either of them. But in, let's see, yeah, in about 2012, I got back into the hobby when I came across another podcast called Critical Hit. It was a 10-year-long D&D 4th edition mega campaign that took the characters from level 1 to max. And yeah, everyone involved is real fun. I worked with them for a little bit. I'm friends with one of the players right now, and he can be a butt, but he's a good person. Yeah, after some negative experiences trying to get back into D&D 3.5 and Pathfinder, I began to look more into the weirder systems. Especially a couple of years ago when I was kind of getting tired of every actual play podcast I encountered being D&D 5e. It just kind of made the whole genre feel a bit stagnant and samey. And yeah, I was just kind of sitting here and just thinking like, nobody's playing the weird stuff. And I thought, heck it, I have free time. And so I started putting together a crew and made my podcast for the sole purpose of just exploring some of the more indie games. So yeah, like when CJ asked me on, I was like, okay, what kind of games are you looking for? I got an infinite amount of them. He was like, fantasy games. And yeah, like no Powered by the Apocalypse games, because that would, we all know that. So that cut the amount of fantasy games I was bringing into this podcast from 32 to 15.
Oh.
Yeah, and all of these games I've collected over the years from bundles, backing on Kickstarters, and one of them I even got from one of the creators. And at some point, I do plan on running at least some of these over on my own podcast, but we're currently in the middle of campaigns for a kind of a urban fantasy horror game called the game is called Portsmouth Zodiac. The system is called Overarms. It's like JoJo or Persona inspired. And the other one is a game set in the Diesel system, which is kind of a Mad Max Western cyberpunk game called Torn Flats Fandango. And I've been putzing around with one-shots here or there when I couldn't get everyone together. And yeah, that's more or less what I wrote for myself.
That's awesome.
With some various liberties taken when I say sentences.
No, that was all right off the dome, unprepared, unscripted, and beautiful. Kind of right off the bat, actually, I want to pick your brain on what it is about D&D that you don't like, and not from like an argumentative standpoint at all,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of us are like, even though we love it, we see the places where it's lacking. We see where other
Yeah.
systems do things better and stuff. So really
Yeah,
just
like-
curious.
So it's not really that I dislike D&D. It's Okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna just paint this target on my back right now. It's kind of the same reason I don't like Tolkien or The Lord of the Rings, because it's like this has been around for so long, and it is so prevalent in pop culture that it has just become the thing. And it's like a lot of people have taken this thing and done their own spin on it and have made really cool things, but nobody pays attention to those things because that thing's right there. And it's just, yeah, like D&D is accessible. It's it's popular. It's easy to get a hold of. And like those are reasons why it's everywhere, and also massive marketing campaigns. Just like it is, like I said, it is too saturated in the current pop culture, for my taste at least, when there's just so many other things that could be done with all sorts of other stuff. Also, it's very, very, very annoying to me when someone's like, hey, how can I put a mech into D&D 5e? And it's like, play Lancer.
Yo!
Just play Lancer.
Lancer. Oh.
We have dabbled into Lancer.
We had some
Yeah,
trouble.
Lancer's pretty fun.
Yeah, I guess the learning curve.
The character creation was a little rough.
We had trouble with the website that they have that goes along with it,
Yeah.
the Capcom. Or
Companion
Yeah,
site.
CompCon
CompCon.
kind of breaks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
lost multiple characters.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Fun fact. The first Lancer campaign I played in, my friend, who is the friend from Critical Hit, he played a character named Dr. Bees, and his whole deal was drones. All he did was make drones.
Yes.
And they were like, okay, he couldn't have been named Dr. Bees. He must have had a real name, because they were going to put in a pledge for the recent-ish Lancer Kickstarter that happened. So to put him in there as a NPC, and they couldn't find the CompCom file with his name in it. So they were like, "Hey, John, you have everyone's character sheet. He couldn't have been called Dr. Bees." And I was like, "I'm pretty sure he was just called Dr. Bees." And I was smart in the past and like saved everyone's what are they, JSON files? However, CompCon saves things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, I saved everyone's JSON files to my laptop, and I found it. I just like sent them the character sheet, and it's just Dr. Bees on every page. Lancer's name, Dr. Bees. Call sign, Dr. Bees. Mech's name, Dr. Bees.
Wow.
Yeah, the one idea is let's go with it.
Yeah.
Same thing happened. Like I think I gave Simon, right? I gave you one of
Yeah,
the
we tried to like
copies.
import each other's character sheet
Yeah.
to like see if it would work. Yeah.
Every time I lose mine, I'm like, "Do you have it?" Yeah, hold on. That's terrible.
Yeah, like I have like 4 or 5 copies of a character sheet for a character I played in a one shot, because I was just like, I don't want to rebuild this character.
Yep, that's right. Okay, accessibility of D&D, that definitely makes sense. And I guess like that's also why I think, in my experience, Powered by the Apocalypse is like super easy to get into. It's super
Oh,
accessible.
yeah.
And once you learn like the philosophy kind of one game, you kind of get it of all, if not most of them, then all of them. And since we've played 3 of them we played 3 on stream. We did a one-shot for Monster of the Week. I just did a 20-episode Dungeon World campaign, and then we did a 20.
We tried the Avatar system too. That was that Magpie recently released.
That was on my list until CJ told me to nip Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yeah. That's why. And they all kind of handle storytelling the same way. The mechanics are different and stuff, but
Yeah, it's all very narrative, theater of the mind type stuff.
And even for me, I started with D&D, just like playing with you guys, like with friends at houses. But the first time I really wanted to create a story was after watching I forget what it was, the McElroy brothers Adventure Zone. Yeah, Amnesty. The way it handled like the storytelling, that immediately like the storytelling was happening and then they just stopped and they're like, okay, that sounds like a roll. So we switched to rolling, resolving, back to storytelling. It was like, oh, I could write a story like that. And that started my love. And now I'm like, I think my whole like career since then, I've always in the back of my mind, I'm like, what else is out there? I know D&D, I know Powered by the Apocalypse. What else is there to discover? And we've been slowly doing so, but I think this list of 14, 15 games that you got, hopefully there's one that pulls at our heartstrings enough, makes us want to play in that world.
I'm gonna be honest, I will be surprised if there's not one. Because have you ever heard of the Dark Forest theory or Dark Forest paradox? So it goes, you are alone in a dark forest. There is someone else out there, but you don't know if they want to hurt you or not. I feel like that's this list of games. You don't know if they're gonna hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
They probably will. They might have a gun. But you won't know unless you just stand up from your shrub and go, hey!
I'm gonna go find out if they have a gun.
Yeah.
I like that. Do you like TTRPG systems with guns? Is there one in that list potentially? A little tease?
Yes, there. Okay, there. When I get to it, I will mention the one where the character gets all the guns. But yeah, I'm a weird contrarian sometimes when it comes to the characters I build. Because if it's like a sword and sorcery thing and there's an option for gun, I'll be like, I want to do that. But if it's like, oh, okay, we're in a modern setting and this guy has a gun, it's like, I want swords.
Look for what's not in high demand.
Yeah, makes sense. John is the Marvel hero in the cool tech suit.
Yeah.
So
the one normal human with no powers in the group. He loses that suit, he is.
But like a lot of money? A lot of money though?
No.
No, so not the Batman or the Iron Man.
No.
No.
He makes
We have
this
one of
stuff.
those.
Yeah.
It's like a scrap suit.
So like MacGyver.
A little MacGyver-ish. It has recently come out though that he didn't make his suit, he found it, and it's alien in origin, and everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of found it. Yeah. It's like, why'd you put the mask on? And it's a mask. You put masks on. It's what
Why
you do.
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
No, don't support it. It's already,
Look,
we already had
if
one
anyone
character
wants
like,
to find out more, they can if they go
Yeah.
yeah, would be heroes.
see, plug in again because I forget the name.
I think we're on YouTube too. Would be
I
heroes,
do believe so.
right?
Yeah.
Hey, post that in the chat.
Yeah, I'll do just that.
But yeah, We are definitely a chaotic bunch over there.
Honestly, I feel like that can describe most TTRPG groups.
Yeah, what?
Because it's like the point of TTRPGs at almost like just see what kind of story you can make with friends,
Yeah,
and it
let's
almost
see,
always veers chaotic.
What was it that I said about? Oh yeah, all friends are just a pack of psychotic cats with various levels of caffeine addiction.
Literally, as,
Yeah,
Pretty accurate.
as you're sipping your espresso.
I wouldn't want to see a cat with a cat.
It's already done.
Anyways, because I was telling John, like, usually in this group, especially with like when we're all here, I would be like, we're a little crazy, but you know, we're harmless. But the group that I come with John, like, compared to them, you guys were saints. We're nuns. We're priests.
The stream started and not everyone yelled obscenities. It was so refreshing.
Oh.
One of the guy's special moves is I think it's just like grabbing someone's groin, right? Or like
No, it is punching them in said
punch.
groin.
It's effective.
Sometimes with various objects.
But see, yelling obscenities right before stream start, like Critical Role has that.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
So like, I was like, it's been done. A huge group does it. So like, it's kind of just like, I mean, we take things from like Dimension 20 all the time, anyways. But you know, it's kind of just like, it's been done. It's a gimmick.
Would be fun from time to time.
Yeah.
I like screaming obscenities.
I mean, we can do it in stream just normally.
I guess.
I
Was that a-
prefer confusing statements.
But then like
Really?
everybody on the stream kind of just like does that for a few seconds, like
Exactly.
Just trying to process it takes a while. Like, wait, huh? Wait, no,
Yeah,
it's coming.
that is my ideal form of comedy. Confusion.
So to bring it back to systems, what's your current favorite system?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so I have a strong bias towards the 3 I am currently playing with Marvel Multiverse, Overarms, and Diesel. They each have their pros and they each have their cons. In the case of Marvel Multiverse, there's a lot of cons. The game needs a second edition severely.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, with the Overarms and Diesel, the cons are a lot smaller. Like Diesel isn't designed for a prolonged campaign. It's designed for like 3 or 4 sessions. And so I have gone through and homebrewed an entire leveling system. Yeah, let's see. Overarms is It does have some cons. I might have to ask some players what those are, but actually no, one of my players had a good con for it. The character creation is incredibly like open.
Oh,
It's like, okay, what does your stand do?
cheers.
Yeah, like what does your stand do? And that is the end of it. There, after that, it's like, okay, I want my stand to reverse objects, and it's like, okay, so now you and the GM have to get together, and it's like, what does that entail? What does level 1 reversing objects do?
Oh gosh.
And yeah, it's a lot of workshopping and building up an entire character's power set, which for me I think is incredibly fun. But for one of my players who is a little rules goblin and loves structure, he has problems with it.
Yeah. Does that give you flashbacks, Peter, to My Hero?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh no, did you guys run a My Hero game?
Yeah, I did, but it was completely like made up. And so after every session, I would have to essentially revise the entire like the mini little rule document I created, and every character had like their own type of character sheet. It was a mess. It was fun, but it was a mess.
Yeah. So sounds about right. But yeah,
Like you
I'm looking
want
at my,
your friends to do the cool stuff, but then they do it at level 1, and you're like, hold on.
yeah. Yeah, what was the phrase I found? No but is just as important as yes and.
Ooh.
I like that.
So, yeah, there have been several times, especially in home games, where I'm like, okay, you can't do that. You just can't. But I'll let you do this similar thing at a much smaller scale, because you're level 1.
Yeah. Gotta rein them in sometimes.
Yeah.
Quoting John on that.
I actually love that because I always hear people say about the yes and stuff,
Yeah.
and it stresses me out. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little
I
thing
want
on
to
your
say no.
toes.
Yeah, and like it doesn't even always have to be like, no, you can't do that, but you can do this. It could also be like, how about instead of that we try this? Or you could just be like, I don't want to deal with that right now. We're not doing this.
The but is that, but you've learned a valuable lesson, and that
Yeah.
you can't do that.
There's also the age-old, well, you can try.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's keep that in your back.
That has never once deterred any of my characters. But
Why should it?
yeah.
That crit is always possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, there's other rules I've seen where it's like crits don't always mean like success.
Mhm.
Like if it's a truly impossible thing, maybe they don't succeed in that, but they're like, oh, wait a second. I tried climbing this 300-foot wall and fell off, but I fell through the ground into a secret tunnel or some such garbage.
Ooh. Okay.
I've taken 15 falling damage, but hey, we got a way past the wall.
Which, like, that's almost like the kind of Hard by the Apocalypse of, like, you fail forward, like,
Yeah.
You still get
Yeah.
something even if you
fall,
fail.
but something happens.
Yeah, I'm a fan of failing forward
Yeah.
in most cases. There are some cases where it's like, yeah, no, this is just a straight up fail.
And what about Diesel? What's so good
Oh.
about Diesel?
Diesel is, first of all, it has a American Wild West type flavoring to it, which I just like that aesthetic. The actual time period's problematic as all heck. But the cowboy hats and the dusters and the 6-shooters, they're all pretty cool. And also, it is a game where you can get cool, neat little cybernetics. And at the front of the game, it's like, hey, the amount of cybernetics you have does not dictate how much humanity you have. Like that is all on you. Your character can be as human or as robotic or as psychopathic as you want them to be. That, like their mods don't put a limit on it. But also, it's like, here's just a bunch of weird Wild West mods. Like, you know what? Yeah, I got the book over here.
That sounds like something Bernia would really like.
Yeah.
And like,
The Wild West. Oh,
yeah,
With,
there's
like the mods
the
and
book.
stuff.
So
Alright.
yeah, like you can get mods such as, let's see. Oh, the mods one of my players has, Hammer Fists, where it is just your hands are just incredibly tough, like they're just plated metal, and then you combine that with something like, I don't know, ramjet arms, and yeah, and that gives you like a rocket punch. Like it puts a rocket on your arm for bigger punches. So you combine those two and you go from rolling like 2 attack dice to 9 attack dice. When most enemies have a defense of like 1 or 2.
Sci-fi Wild West. Damn.
Yeah, it is.
Alright,
It is
fine.
pretty fun. And
Kinda pretty
yeah,
cool.
like they have the mods are separated into various classes, like your charger, your knight, your mechanist, and all this. But like you can just pick mods from anything. You could be the biggest, tankiest, like super spy.
Dude, this
There's
is-
also one mod in here that is just a straight up drone that you can explode at will. You then have to replace the drone on your own, but it's an option.
That's pretty
Flying
cool.
grenades.
Yeah.
Flying remote mines, basically.
Mhm.
definitely want to check out Diesel already. We haven't even gotten to the list.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Diesel was on the list.
Diesel actually wasn't on the list because I was
Got an
told
extra.
fantasy, so I focused on fantasy.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
If it was like fantasy adjacent, then I probably would have tossed in something like Coyote and Crow in the mix.
This guy got too much knowledge.
So
I didn't
much.
feel it.
I-
in your
Well,
brain.
it's
I
like-
paid for too many
We should also mention
Kickstarters.
like
is what I've
sci-fi, I
done.
guess.
Hmm?
Yeah.
We've done sci-fi, Dimensionauts and everything was sci-fi-esque.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was
that's good.
Numenera.
Okay, there are a couple of sci-fi items on the list, but they're more sci-fantasy than sci-fi.
Fair enough.
That's a cool genre that I didn't like really get into until Dimension 20 when they did Starstruck Odyssey. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It still kind of feels like fantasy, but it's fully like, Space Odyssey.
I mean, Star Wars, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of space opera fiction feels like it is more science fantasy than science
Mhm.
fiction.
Yeah, that's very true. And then Marvel, I think you hit it on the head. It's cool, right? Especially for
Mhm.
Marvel, like, well, really mostly for Marvel fans. It's cool.
Yeah,
But for RPG heads, there's room for growth.
yeah. And like character creation can be a bit overwhelming for someone coming into it for the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, after you build your first character, like D&D, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can knock another one out in a couple minutes. And yeah, it just needs an editor. It
Mm.
needs an editor and for someone to put some limits on some dang powers. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I summon a portal. How big can the portal be? What does it say? All right, goodbye, White House.
Wow. So it's like a little nondescript, like doesn't really get into.
It's super nondescript.
Okay.
Yeah, like they're. Yeah, at the end of my one shot, we have like a 20-minute discussion about the pros and cons we had about the system. Now, I'll find my own podcast and go ahead and link to that.
Please do.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, again, it's like the last 10 or no, like 20, 25 minutes. And I was sitting there at the very start of the episode being like, okay, we're only going to talk about our feelings of the game for 10 minutes afterwards. It's like, well, that was a lie.
It's just like, I think someone in our group said something about like it's a comic book, so you don't like comic book characters aren't always tied down to those specific rules of how their power works. Some issues, like they do these insane things that you're like, oh, I didn't realize that their powers could hit that kind of peak level. So I guess you want that represented in like the vagueness, but you can't play like a proper TTRPG session or long campaign when pretty much everything is like that, where it's like the DM almost has to intervene too much to be like, no, okay, this is what that does. This is what that does.
Yeah.
These are the limits.
Yeah, and there's so much put onto the GM's shoulders, and it's like there is a feat or trait you can take in this game that is eidetic memory, and then it's just like if the player doesn't take a note about something and is like, hey, wait, I have photographic memory. GM, what was this person's name? And then GM's just like, oh, God, I didn't write that down because that was the problem you guys were talking to.
Yeah. That makes me think of Keen Mind from D&D.
Was that okay? I was
Yeah.
trying to remember.
like a little
Yeah.
bit similar? The GM
very
just has to
similar to
remember
Keen Mind.
everything. Yeah.
Player doesn't remember anything, but the character should, right? Because they have the feat that lets them do it.
Mm-hmm. And then in the most recent X-Men expansion for Marvel Multiverse, they had they have a whole brand new set of powers that's like, hey, GMs, narrators, do you want more stuff to keep track of? Well, here's narrative powers that trigger off of like narrative events, such as Multiply, where when something happens, the character splits into two people. And then those two people can split into two people if they hit the same trigger.
What the heck?
Or there's one where it's like, cannot lose. It's like, okay, what does this mean? The character cannot lose. And then it's up to the GM to quantify what that means.
Wow.
What the heck? I mean, I think I like the implication, but it's how would that work in a game? You know, like the
They
idea of
have
it is super
some-
cool. Like I get it. Like you have this weird meta power, but
Yeah, they have explanations of like, oh, maybe the character recognizes that they're on the losing side of a battle, and so they swap sides. And then it's like, okay, what does that mean for a character with a heroic trait who's fighting the villain? Like, they're not going to switch sides because they're going to lose.
Unless they
And-
trick the villain into thinking they're going to switch sides,
Mm.
and then actually double cross them later on.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's... But again, that's all stuff that,
Yeah.
like, the GM would have to just about stop the game and get into a sidebar with the player about.
True.
Yeah,
True.
true. Is that supposed to be? Well, what's that character who they did terribly in the X-Men movie? Darwin, where he like
Yeah. No, he
can't
has a
die?
different power that's represented
Oh.
in the book, which is like immediate mutation or something like that, emergency mutation.
Mhm.
But yeah, his is also a thing where it is on the narrator to come up with a reason for these powers to kick off.
That's too
Okay, narrative powers. Let's see. Okay, yeah, the ones listed are cannot lose, where the character cannot lose. DNA manipulation, which seems weird that that's not a regular power. Duplicate self, which is the duplication I was talking about. Instant evolution, that is Darwin's power. And then restart, which is Moira McTaggart's power, which just means that your character dies. They basically respawn at their birth and continue on the timeline until they die again.
Respawn like as a baby?
Yep.
They live their life again.
How do you play that?
Mhm. I don't know. And even the book is like, we don't know.
do you keep all your memories?
Yeah, that's like the upside
okay.
to restart. Like,
Super baby.
you are the same person. Your brain has just been shunted into a baby's body. And I think in the comics, Moira McTaggart is like 700 years old or some such because she keeps going back in time. And then she's like, oh, well, I've gone back in time too many times, so now I'm out of respawns. And the book says, oh, that might not be the last respawn. That might just be the last respawn for that timeline. And it's just like, comic books, why are you like this?
Maybe we shouldn't make Marvel
Yeah.
RPG.
Maybe
For
comic
every
books were a
type of
mistake.
character.
I don't know. Slushy just said that she wants this now, so that she can actually relive as a 7-year-old child. Because like that's what she's kind of been going for each time. You know, in Monster of the Week, she was a young child, and
It's so true. Oh gosh, that's a funny thing to handle. I don't know if you've encountered that, John, of like a child in the party, and then
Oh.
the moral ramifications of bringing them along.
A little bit. Like, it hasn't been vocalized a lot in Would Be Heroes, but my character is very uncomfortable with our 13-year-old companion. Just like, she shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be fighting the wrecking crew.
Get that child out of there.
Yeah.
Take the drugs away from the child. Take the gun away from the child.
Oh,
Take the
God.
powers away from the child.
Yeah, I do typically have a rule in my games of like no child endangerment.
Yeah.
And then a player like tripped me up by like, oh, this city was or this village was ransacked by bandits. Are there any dead children? I was like, well, yeah, I guess there would be. And then he's like, okay. It's like, God damn it. You got me. Well, fine, everyone can swear now. I killed a child in episode 1. This is officially explicit.
That sets the tone for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's maybe get. I don't know how far down we're gonna get through this list, but you've prepared it. I'd love to honor at least most of it.
Yeah.
So if you would like, we can get started on that.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and dig into my list. I will begin with the first game, which is also the game I took the least amount of notes about. Okay, so I have these all set into bullet points. So while I'm talking and describing them, feel free to stop me and ask me what the heck I'm talking about. And while whenever I switch and start talking to one, I'll post a link to where they can be purchased in the Discord chat, and you guys can do with that link what you will.
Beautiful.
So, the first game, which I actually forgot to put a purchase link in, but it's easy enough to Google, is Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It is a D&D system that takes inspiration from... it's a D20 system, not a D&D system. That takes inspiration from Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition. Think of it like a more streamlined Pathfinder that's less daunting to new players. That's it. That's my notes. It's Pathfinder. All right.
That's a good one. Good one to have.
Have you played it, Peter?
Nope, I purchased it, but I have never played it.
Yeah, I have read through it a couple times. Have yet to play it.
Oh, okay.
All right. And I have decided to go weird for the second one. So this is Valor RPG, and it is a system that uses a single D10 for its rolling systems. Its character creation is very free-formed and not really genre-locked, so you can reflavor this however you want. And it also kind of has the problem I was talking about earlier that some people have with Overarms, where it's like, you might be given a bit too much freedom. Let's see, yeah, when you build your character, you get 25 points to spread across your 5 core stats. You also get 5 active attributes, which are half rounded up of your core stat plus your current level. That number can't be lower than 0. Let's see. Along with HP that, does health point stuff, your character also has a stamina, which is used for your special abilities, your spells, all that stuff. You also have a stat called Valor, and that can fluctuate throughout the session, with it resetting to 0 at the start of each scene. Acting like a cool anime protagonist will give you more Valor, while acting like a dishonorable coward loses you valor. Having less than 0 valor starts to inflict penalties. Like -1 to your checks, -2 at negative. Yeah, -1 I think is -1. -5 is 2. Yeah, -2 penalty, so on and so forth. But having 10 or more valor gives you bonuses. Like I think it's just like a +1 bonus. But it also lets you use your bigger, more powerful abilities that have a valor cost instead of just a stamina cost. Combat scenes are a series of contested checks. So when a character is being attacked, they would roll the same stat as the attacker to defend. But they can instead choose to roll a different stat, probably more that they're, or one that they're more proficient with. And that'll have a penalty associated with it, such as taking more damage or spending stamina or being stunned if you lose that contest. So, it's a higher risk, higher rewards for defending with your more prominent stats. Let's see.
Do you have to explain how you're using that stat in order to use it? Like, does it have to be reasonable, or can you just be like, I'm going to take a penalty to use intelligence, and I don't have to explain how?
That one might depend on your GM.
Okay.
Because depending on the vibe of the person, I would probably either be like, okay, how are you dodging with intelligence? But if they're like, I just got off work, it's like, okay, I'll BS something for you. I just got off work and you threw me into combat. But yeah, the book has some. You would think with all the work I put in here, I'd have these pulled up already. Wait, where's my Valor PDF? Well, okay, Valor's gone from my computer, it looks like. That's unfortunate.
Very.
But yeah, with each oh wait, there it is. It is in the mother folder and not any of the
The small children folder
child folders
that you've killed in episode.
Yeah. Well, it's their fault for being there. Okay, combat was page 11. It's also a pretty small core rulebook, only having 188 pages. But yeah, if people want to check this out, I believe it's either free or incredibly cheap.
I like both those options.
Yeah, but yeah, it has stuff in the book of like, oh, here's how you can defend with these actions. Like, I'm going to calculate the trajectory of this throwing knife and definitely step out of the way with my intelligence.
See, because I asked because since there already is a cost to doing it mechanically, it would make sense that you don't always have to explain it, because sometimes the cost is like, well, if you can't explain it, then you can't do it.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, it is a very narrative-heavy game. So yeah, depending on the GM, they might be like, okay, I want you to tell me how this goes, but again, I feel like after a certain amount of times, it would be like, okay, I know how you're gonna dodge this, like flavor-wise. So if you want to dodge it using intelligence, then have at it, my dude.
Dodging using strength. What would that look like?
That would be One Punch Man biting the sword in half.
I mean, dodges the attack. And
yeah.
Cheers, boys.
Oh, cheers. I wanted to ask, so like the flow of the game, are you always trying to one-up your previous actions because you're trying to get valor points and do cool anime stuff?
Kind of. Yeah, it very much is paced like an anime, and yeah, like you have all these ridiculous abilities you can build. Oh, okay, so yeah, I'm gonna skip ahead in my notes a little bit. So, you have techniques, and these are your character's combat abilities, spells, whatever. And each one is custom tailored by the player. And you are basically given this Lego box of parts for your techniques, which include the core, which is what kind of ability it is, attack, support, that kind of stuff, an attribute, a modifier, the power of the ability, the stamina cost, and what limits it. And so yeah, you're trying to one-up yourself or one-up your enemies by using these techniques of yours in this, within the limits of the power and the flaws of your character. Flaws are also traits you can take that obviously give you penalties, but gives you more points to buy more skills.
Okay. I really like what I'm hearing. I really want to try this.
Yeah, I've played it a few times. It is very fun, especially once you get the hang of making powers. Yeah, the one game I played more than none of, I basically made a magic biker version of Hagar from Streets of Rage. So it's just going around lariating and throwing people all over the place.
Incredible.
And yeah, like my friend, she almost exclusively plays this because that's what her GM is comfortable running. And I think her GM might actually be one of the creators of the game. But yeah, like they have played, like your standard fantasy game. They have played a Shovel Knight game. They're in the middle of playing a Kingdom Hearts game. So yeah, as far as genre goes, the world is your oyster for this system. And oh, also, so one of the things you can spend Valor on is called an overdrive, and they are used. Okay, my notes here says overdrives are used to turn the tables of combat by giving substantial bonuses, additional actions, or even health boosts that go away at the end of combat. And there was one, the health boost, that I was looking at that felt very fun and anime, where it was like you're healed back to full, or you're healed by like 40 points or whatever. And as soon as combat ends, you lose that amount of HP, regardless of how much you have left. And it has a little note in there that's like, your character can die from this. And so yeah, like you can definitely burn some Valor to get like you can do your dumb anime speech to get some Valor. Combat's not going good, so you burn the Valor to do an overdrive and hopefully swing the tide of combat in your favor.
That sounds awesome.
Sounds kind of like Might Guy, like opening the last gate just to get that last damage.
But yeah, like there are I feel like it is hard for me to stress how many options there are for making powers. Like they have an example power in there, but they changed the example halfway through making the power. So you don't get a good look at what a finished power looks like for a hot second.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically just a stack of Legos or a DIY lightsaber from Disney World, or whatever your building metaphor is.
Interesting. So maybe too many options, but
yeah, maybe too many options, and not too much structure for like a pre-built setting. But hey, if you have a GM that loves to just make things, this is definitely one of them for them.
Definitely do.
Yeah, it feels very Big Eye Small Mouth, which I didn't put on this list because I can never find a copy of it.
I thought that was a saying.
No,
very Big Eye Small Mouth.
no, Big Eye Small Mouth, or or Besum is another anime-inspired RPG that I don't think it has any set genre. I think it's kind of like Valor, where it's just very freeform, and it's just, here's your stack of points. Be free, my children.
You kind of need that for an anime-themed
Oh, yeah.
game, though, because I mean, anime can be any genre.
Yeah.
So.
And it can be as ridiculous as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be as singular as My Hero Academia, where it's like, okay, we're all superheroes. Or it could be as ridiculous as One Piece, where it's like, okay, this week we're in Japan, everyone. We're going to fight samurai. Oh, wait, never mind. We want to be a sci-fi setting now, so we're going to Egghead. You know what? Never mind all of that. This is a heist movie now. Also, I recently just finished reading all of One Piece. It is an excellent read if anyone hasn't read it.
It is.
I think the only one here is
Yeah.
CJ.
You should read it.
Shit, I'm outnumbered. As always.
Yeah, I'm almost up to date with the anime, and I'm caught up with the manga.
Yeah. All right.
good stuff.
Yeah, you're getting added from all over, Siege. Even the chat's calling you out.
Are they?
Oh, by the sheriff himself.
Listen, who has the time? Okay. I do want to watch Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, just because.
Okay, I was about to say.
we were at a convention where they were playing it in a room. We walked into a scene. Piccolo sees Gohan turn into a huge ape for the first time, and he's like, "Oh shit! He changed when the full moon was out. So I'm gonna destroy the moon." And he just blew up the moon.
The
And
best
then he
part
pulled his
about
tail
that-
out for good measure.
Yeah, I was about to say the best part about that is Piccolo knows the tail is the weak point.
He's like, "Oh well, the moon's gone, but just in case." Like, do that first next time before you
Nah.
destroy the rest.
The first thought, destroy the moon.
Mm-hmm. Heck, those fish.
Who needs the tides?
It ends up being a
Tide
good
cycles
thing, but
barely know her.
they just
dumb
recreate
fun
a
fact.
artificial moon anyways afterwards.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, dumb fun fact. Apparently, if the Earth didn't have the moon, it would be spinning so hard that, or the water would be spinning so hard that it would just make a buzzsaw around the equator.
What?
I'm having a hard time.
Gravitational forces kind of
imagining
keeping
that.
him in check.
Yeah,
A buzzsaw.
So it'd be like a ring of water.
yeah, like a ring of water the size of a mountain.
Oh gosh.
Is that the Grand Line?
You know what? Yeah, it's kind of the Grand Line.
You need to control yourself, CJ. Okay?
We have a it's called the Champs Challenge. It's like
Duh.
a season-long campaign now, and there's something called the Grand Line that everybody goes through before they get to this setting. And I thought it was the One Piece Grand Line, but it's just a really long line of people.
Amazing.
Like, oh, it's in the ocean. Like, no, it's just a line that people are waiting in to get in. Oh,
It's just a cube.
yeah. The Grand Cube.
All right, but yeah, that's all I have to say
That's
about
Valor.
Valor. So, yeah, if you guys want me to move on, I have.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so this next one is Beacon. It is one of the Kickstarter games I backed. It is it's very reminiscent of Lancer and 4E. So you get your characters, and as you level up, you get like here's this option and this option that becomes available. You know, like et cetera, et cetera. As far as dice goes, the game uses a D20 and a handful of D6s. It's a bit crunchier on the GM side, so if you like battle maps and custom tailoring monsters for the encounters, like you'll like this. It has some very video gamey mechanics, such as the downtime ability to basically redo character creation and store your old class and or appearance into a crystal that you can swap back to anytime during a short or long rest. So you have a downtime action when you're at town or your hub or whatever, where you can just respec. But if you're during the quest, if you're like, I don't like this respec, you could just pop right back to your old character. And I believe they do have a fun thing in here where it's like, yeah, you can change what species your character is, but everyone knows who you are. So you can't get out of crime doing that. And like I said, there's a whole list of downtime actions, a la Lancer, for in between quests where you can, go dungeon diving for some bonus rewards. Start building a organization, train, just all the fun filler episode stuff. One thing that's kind of interesting about this game is initiative. So I am going to pull up for me the Beacon Core rulebook so that I can look at this myself, because initiative is handled by what action you want to take, and not necessarily your speed. So,
kind of like, did you play Avatar?
I did not play Avatar. I didn't look too far into it because I was like, oh, this is powered by the apocalypse. I don't need this.
It's
It does have that idea of like that rock paper scissors shoot idea for initiative. Depending on which move you pick, it allows the players that picked that move to go first over others.
Yeah, and so yeah, each round is in a Beacon is broken into phases. There's phase 1 through 8, which you can choose to defend, or you can choose to channel magic, or you can choose to do your rogue stuff, or not your rogue, your ranger stuff, like marking a target, or searching, or shooting a bunch of arrows. And then phase 4 seems like the most chaotic one, which is rush. And rush is your character's move. So you just get to phase 4 and everyone scatters. And then phase 5 is your fight phase. Phase 6 is your releasing your channeled spell phase. 7 is your full attack. And the 8th one is delay, where you just delay your action. And to kind of keep this from getting too absurd, enemies have a predetermined rank on the phase. So like your bog standard bandit might go at phase 7 or something. So the heroes would have time to get situated and get ready to fight and what have you.
8 phases.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, one of my players does not look forward to playing this game because of the phase. But I do believe it does have rules for if you want to just have normal turns, you would roll your deftness. And then you can surge to perform another standard action, and those start giving you stress, which is stress is kind of a companion HP resource to HP. You lose all your stress, then negative things start happening to you. Let's see, where was I in my notes? Okay, yeah, you can take stress to perform additional actions. So one thing I kind of like about this is your character is special because they are a PC. So being a level 1 character means that you are, by default, more skilled and well-known for what you do than, your standard RPG NPC.
Mm-hmm.
And during character creation, you pick a title for your character that they have earned over their past adventures. It's kind of like a Dark Souls boss name, and it kind of just represents like who your character is and what they do. One example they have in the book is a character whose title is the All-Knowing, and when you have the chance, the appropriate chance, you can invoke your character's title and get a bonus on that check. And the title is a part of your character's legend. So as your character levels up and their legend grows, then their title could change or improve. So like this person, I'm gonna call her Edith because I don't have her name right in front of me. Edith Edith the All-Knowing might eventually become like Edith the Scholar of the Dark Arts or some such. They kind of suggest to keep it specific enough that there are some restrictions on it, but loose enough that it, you can use it in a wider array of situations. Like if you've played Fate, it's kind of like a trait.
I was gonna say, is it like? Yeah.
And whenever you pick up your quest and head out on that quest, you kind of similar to Lancer, you look at all of your character options and you pick out your loadout. So like your equipment, your traits, your techniques, your spells, just all of that stuff you go through, and you're like, okay, what can my what can my character bring with them? Okay, they can bring four techniques in one spell. Okay then. Or if you're playing as the Arsenal, you can just be like, I'm gonna take every weapon. I'm gonna take all guns. And this is the character I was talking about earlier, where they have just all the guns. They have every weapon. It is equipped for free.
Oh my God.
And they can just swap out weapons, or they can use their limit break, which is, if you've played D&D 4e, a limit break is basically your daily. And you could just reload all your phantom weapons.
Phantom weapons, okay.
So cool.
Yeah, I really want to play an Arsenal, but there is also another class in Beacon that it was a stretch goal class that you are just Pokemon Trainer Red. You have a little fire elemental, a little plant elemental, and a little water elemental.
Sick.
And all of your powers, the Shade Binder. All of your powers are about making them better, or
training them.
Yeah, training them. And I believe, at rank 3, you get a capture orb. So you can try and let me see. I want to make sure I'm reading this right. As a minor action, you can expend a charge and make a thrown melee weapon attack. On hit, the target must make a magic save with a +1 penalty. I think that's what that is. If they are bloodied, it also increases. If they're breaking, it also increases. Every condition. Okay, yeah. And they get an extra penalty for every condition they have. Failure, they are stunned and immobilized until the end of the next turn. Make note of their current HP and MP. And this item switches to the full profile. Success, they are dazed until the end of their next turn. And this item remains empty. Full profile. As a minor action, one character within thrown range gains temp HP equal to the combined HP and MP of the character that failed their magic save. So yeah, you basically use a Pokeball to absorb an enemy, and then you can transfer their HP and MP to someone else.
Holy crap, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's pretty unique for a class.
yeah, like the classes are very fun in Beacon, and they can be as silly as the Shardbinder, or as cool as well, geez, they're all kind of as cool as the Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Is the title like, is that the same thing as the, what was it called, the Shadow Binder, or like the Shadow Binder is the class?
Shadebinder is the class. Yeah, your title would be different. So it would be like Ace Shadebinder Morgue. And it would be like, okay, you get to call in like your title of Ace Shardbinder and do stuff. Or it could just be like Morgue the Indeterminable. It's like, okay, what does indeterminable mean? They can't make a decision. Like, but yeah, like their title could be literally anything, just as long as it relates to the character and their goals or their history.
Okay. That's an interesting mechanic.
Oh yeah.
Canadian. Well, I don't know why I'm about to read out his whole name. You know what? I'm gonna finish it. Canadian Captain America says, "Morgue the uncannily vague." I like that.
Yes. Oh, that's gonna be my character. But yeah, and one thing that our dear Canadian Captain America helped me like verbalize was the fact that in this game, gold is more of an abstract resource than anything concrete. So as your characters are adventurers, and you know, by just a pure fact that they're level 1, they have gone successfully on adventures, it's assumed that they have enough gold for basic needs like basic lodging and some boring food, and the starting equipment for their class. So it's just like, okay, yeah, you totally have like the 18 silver and 5 copper to get yourself some heavy armor and a rusty short sword. Oh,
I like that. I like handling. Yeah. I can't be bothered especially while I'm DMing, to be like, how much gold do I specifically give you that's like worth what you're gonna want to buy with it, and like how much? It's like, no. What do you want? Yeah, you have enough. You give me everything you have. That's enough. Or yeah.
And the only time, like if you do want to have gold in your system, the optional gold home rule is that a beacon, your player character, can only carry 10 gold at any given time. And that is made to promote spending the gold. Because they're kind of like Link. They put too many rupees in their wallet and they just start deleting themselves.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and so yeah, I don't think fancy equipment has any additional cost. Yeah, like there's no basic like cost here. It would probably all be like RP haggling or what have you, or just like, you can pick up 5 daggers, no problem. But if your characters have a hub, like their own castle or a town or what have you, then you can use that gold to upgrade your hub, and like a higher level blacksmith would give you benefits. And also, as soon as I said there's nothing really to spend gold on, I have come across a chapter that is just shops and supplies, and I have found the list of things that require gold. But
there you go. Yeah,
things are listed in this list for between 1 and 3 gold on average, with some of the bigger things being either 5 or X amount of gold. And yeah, there's nothing saying that like the beacons can't pull their cash together to make one big boy purchase.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's kind of like like 10 gold would be like having your wallet like just stuffed
Mhm.
with $100 bills, maybe.
Yeah, it is just abstract. You have 10 units of monies. And yeah, on top of the magical item rewards that are listed in the book, the game also features a funky little loot box system in the form of a Google Doc where you can reload the page and it gives you a randomly generated variety of gear you can give your players.
Oh, shit.
And
That's
yeah, well, some of them are useful.
Oh,
I've done
only
a
the
couple
players,
of
I
rolls
meant
where
for
it's
the
like,
DM.
yeah. And if you do wind up with like magic items that no one in your team wants and they don't want to sell it for whatever reason,
Mhm.
you can also just take the D&D 4th edition method of like, I'm gonna crunch this item for its magical components, and this is a residium, and residium can be used to re-roll a loot box.
A loot box?
Yeah,
on, there's
that
loot
is what they are
boxes?
called in games.
I love that. I love it,
What?
but I also don't. But it's
Yeah, it's
just fun.
very silly.
like as a mechanic, it's fun. But I mean, there's a few things. Like, what's the this can be played with any type of setting
Mhm.
realistically.
This
Like
is-
you can shape it.
Yeah, you can shape it. It is mostly geared towards fantasy,
Okay.
but there are, I believe, there are at least like synthetic humanoid races, and like I said, there's the Arsenal, who is a summoned weapon character who can summon guns, and then there's also just the gunslinger archetype. And yeah, like it doesn't have to be fantasy, but
Mhm.
yeah, okay. It is easier to reflavor this into sci-fi than it would be D&D.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It's just because it's giving me like a little bit like there's some like absurd powers and stuff that you might
Mhm.
not normally see in other settings. And so
It's very Final Fantasy.
yeah.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of these on this list I can give the descriptor of takes inspiration from Final Fantasy. In fact, one character is straight up a Final Fantasy Dragoon. They're called the Dragon Rider, and all their abilities are about jumping.
Yeah. Straight up Dragoon.
But yeah, let's see. So beyond the loot box system, which, yeah, like you can give the characters, their own pre-made or your pre-chosen loot at the end of the dungeon from the loot chapter of the book, or you could roll the random loot generator a few times and be like, oh, okay, the loot box you guys get is this one. Let's see. Also, there are 29 classes in total. I just put that as a point of order because that seems like a lot.
What?
Your class.
Wait, why 29? Why not 30? Why not go the extra mile? Extra step?
Because I don't think they hit number 30 in the Kickstarter stretch goals.
Okay.
I think they had 3 or 4 Kickstarter classes get funded. One of them was the Shadebinder. One was the Nightmare. But yeah, they're talking about a supplemental coming out soon, which is going to have like 4 more classes. Sorry. Let's see. Oh yeah, your class determines your abilities and your attributes. So yeah, like regardless of what species you are, there's a chance that your halfling barbarian would have the same amount of strength as an orc barbarian, but each each species has its own amount of traits that you can bring with you on missions. So let's see what the halfling. Halflings can force enemies to reroll attacks against them, or you can get a bonus to all checks and saves and attacks during a surge. And the orc can just regain HP with a second wind, or they can tackle people just straight up. And yeah, the big flavors on your character classes is going to come from whatever traits your race gives you. But like they'll all have the same base stats. Like if you have a party of assassins, they're all gonna work from the same foundation.
Huh. That is interesting.
Yeah, and I believe like character advancement kind of tapers off at level 10. That's about as high as the book recommends going. And since each class only has 3 levels, multi-classing is pretty much mandatory. And yeah, this should have been something I researched, but I researched so many games this past week.
Fair.
But yeah, like I believe that when you multi-class, you take actually, I may have just found this. Once you have unlocked the job, can equip it. Okay. Multi-classing is a homebrew rule. So yeah, you can only have one job equipped at a time. So at most, your character is going to go in as a level 3 something.
Okay.
But you have access to all of the traits that you have unlocked from other jobs. So you could be an assassin who has the power to throw a Pokeball at someone at level 4. So yeah, the levels are... Yeah, the levels are kind of like your Final Fantasy 14 thing of, I'm just going to go shotgunning classes, and then I'm going to build my horribly min-maxed goblin monstrosity with all the traits I have just accrued from all these other classes.
Min-max or heaven, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
I hadn't heard of that type of progression for a TTRPG. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Doing that sort of job system and cherry picking your abilities from one to the other.
Yeah, it's a little bit to keep track of, but unlike Marvel Multiverse, this is all on the player's end to keep track of.
Yes, we like that.
Oh wait, was it? Sorry, I'm just reading something to make sure.
I don't know about you guys, but 29 classes makes me actually that makes me want to look at it.
Right? Like, how
really
could there be
right.
29
I need to see
different
this. 29 classes.
Yeah, I think the benefit is there's only 3 levels for each one, but still, that is a lot. But yeah, it is very neat. Something I could also say about every book on this list, I love the art. It's very fun. And I am excited to play this at some point.
That sounds fun.
So let's see. Next on my list is a game that in my mind is kind of a companion piece to Beacon, but that might only be because I heard about them at the same time. And that is Break! I only say it like that because the title ends with 2 exclamation marks. So yeah, I will send that link to the Discord. So
Again, if you're not in our Discord, the link is in the chat if you'd like to join and see all these links that John is so kindly providing.
yes. So yeah, So while Beacon was more about Lancer and like Final Fantasy 14. Break is more like the old like SNES JRPGs, or like the old adventure animes, or like Ghibli movies. Like it's a very fun kind of, I don't know why, but the adjective I want to use is like boppy type system. It only uses a single D20. Yeah, each character, or each species rather, has a set number of inventory slots, and each item they carry, including your various forms of money, takes up a specific number of those inventory slots. So you kind of got a bit of a Resident Evil 4 in there. It is one of these systems where they obviously had fun with it, as you have human, normal as a species, as well as human, isekai. The isekai human is in the book called a dimensional stray.
No.
But yeah, you could just be some schmuck from Earth. And yeah, he is the dimensional stray is also the character with the briefcase on the cover of the book. If you see him, he is one of the kind of main characters. Let's see. Also, in terms of them just having fun making the game, they had Battle Princess and Murder Princess as classes, with the Battle Princess being very Sailor Moon. You have a weapon you can summon and change the shape of, very paladin-y. And the Murder Princess is the violent version of that. And they have stated that even boys can be Battle Princesses.
Of course.
So, yeah, so despite the name, it is not a gender-locked class. When creating a character, you can roll for a type of quirk that helps your character with a bit of RPG party member spice, like being jumpy, or having springs for legs, or just being kind of chunky. And some of these have mechanical implications, like if you choose the Gertsum, or you get the Gertsum quirk, your character moves like 1 speed unit slower. But yeah, it's just a little fun bit of flavor you can toss onto your character. Oh yeah, okay, so yeah, here's a fun thing. So XP matters for the progression of the characters, as you would expect. As you might not expect, the length of your sessions are included in determining how much XP the GM gives you at the end of the session.
Whoa!
You get
Wait,
1
wait.
XP per hour of playing Break.
Oh my gosh! Wait, is that a good amount for an hour?
Yeah, going from level 1 to level 2 is 6 points of XP.
Okay.
So, you know, like
That's a really
1 or 2 sessions could level up a character, and that's just by going through that XP. Like, you know, your standard doing heroic or fantastical acts can also give you more XP. There's a whole XP system of discovery, and yeah, it's just do stuff, get XP. Play longer, get more XP.
So,
Argue
like,
about a puzzle for 8 hours.
Yeah,
Level up
what the
twice.
they're like tied, like the session length and these other things are used in tandem to level you up, or you can use one or the other. Okay.
The game, again, from my marathon research, it seems as though those do, like, they are in tandem. Like, you have your time XP, you would have your discovery XP of like, oh, okay, they got to the village, and then they got to the castle, then they got to the crypts. Okay, that's 3 XP for discovery. And we played for 2 hours, so that's 5 XP. And then this character jumped through a window and combat rolled across the floor, and then sprinted at top speed and did parkour to escape the guards. Okay, that's another XP. You guys have leveled up for session 2.
You know, as an adult, I appreciate
Yeah,
my
I was gonna
time
say,
being.
It's so respectful of a system.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Like, even if you did nothing too important, you gave us
Yeah.
2 hours of your time.
Yeah.
That's 2 experience.
Yeah, it's a very fun reward system. Yeah, I was gonna make a note about that and completely forgot about it being like just a feel good reward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
I like
okay,
that
we
there's a
argued
connection.
about where to go for the entire time, but hey, we might level up by partway through next session.
Yeah, it's a cool bridge though between like the fact that there's an isekai protagonist character that you can play, and like it's sort of bridging the gap between reality and what you're playing, and giving you EXP on your real time that you're investing. It's cool. It's a cool concept.
That is cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, so yeah, depending on the type of magic your magical characters use, they can be aligned with the light or the dark. And once they get enough alignment, they gain a cosmetic gift or cosmetic bane that it just kind of like adds more flair to the character. So yeah, 2 examples are having unblinking snake eyes, or they could have a melodic voice, or they might develop a halo or devil horns or stretchy fingers. And it's just, this is the stuff that happens when you use too much of one flavor of magic.
Oh.
And a lot of these, like with the quirks, there's a table you can roll on and figure that out. But I imagine the GM could also be like, it's more applicable if you're worshiping the Dark Dragon if the gift you get is scales.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Interesting way of like even if you're a character that transforms into animals constantly, of handling it like, okay, well now you kind of you transform back the 100th time, there's something about you that's changed a little. Because you are constantly exposing yourself to this kind of magic. That's kind of cool.
Let's see. Yeah, Arlo wants to get on my desk, but he's not allowed. Okay, so yeah, as far as combat goes, whoever initiates combat basically takes a surprise round.
Enemy too?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And for regular initiatives, there we go. The person in the group with the highest deafness, again, dexterity by another name, those characters from each faction fighting would have a contested roll to see who goes first. And the way, again, to my understanding, that this happens is all the PCs go on the same round. They just agree on what order they go in. And the same for all the NPC combatants. Arlo, do not grab that. He's trying to smack a sword off the wall. And yeah, like if the enemies have the higher dexterity check than the players, and all the enemies would go first, and vice versa for the players. The only thing from my research about this game that seems weird is the checks. So a regular check, you want to roll under a target number. For a contested roll, it's kind of more Price is Right, where you want to be closer to the target number, but being under.
Interesting.
Cat, you're starting to be a little butt. Gotta hold him like a baby. Attack checks, however, you want to be higher than their target number.
Okay.
So, yeah, you want to be lower than target number in everything other than attack checks. Also, because we love rolling on tables in this household, When you lose all of your HP, which is represented by 3 hearts, you roll on an injury table. You can keep fighting, but unless
Arlo is a freak.
he cares not for my time. Okay, so HP, right. So you can keep fighting after you've lost all of your health and you've taken a roll on the injury table. But every time you get hit after that, you roll on the next level of injury table, which could result in death ranging from a peaceful death to a messy death.
3 hearts.
Yeah, you can heal pretty easily too, if I remember. Let's see. Also, just a fun thing that I appreciate: when you are fighting giant monsters, you have various body part targets that you can hit, like Monster Hunter, to weaken them for the killing blow. And much like a lot of the other things on this list, Break has downtime actions you can complete in between missions.
You don't do that enough.
Also, give me 1 second. There is an item. Okay, yeah, it's got to be this game. So yeah, either your class or your character gives you a number of okay, yeah, it would have to be this game because it used no, wait. Sorry, I am just trying to. Okay, I guess it might have been. Okay, so either Beacon or Break. One of the two has a quick slot, like belt pouch type item situation, where you get X number of inventory points per, like, visit to the town. And basically, when you're in combat, you can pay those to be like, oh, I have 6 inventory points. I'm going to spend 2 of those, and I will have bought a potion at town, so I'm going to take that out of my pocket and drink it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's one of those two, and I could have sworn I made a note about which one it was, but can't find it.
That's fine. I feel like we talked about that before. Maybe not recently. But, like, handling things after, like, instead of giving you the time to do stuff in town, and then if you don't do it, then, like, that's it, versus, like, kind of skipping it over and then retroactively being like, hey, could I have done that during our downtime? Yeah, you've got the inventory slots.
Yeah, there's a home rule I typically use that is it's titled Right Tool for the Job, and it's basically like, yeah, every time you visit town and, you know, like, your character is resupplying go off, you can be like, oh, actually, I bought a crowbar when we were back in town. Can I use that on this treasure chest? It's like, oh, yeah. But, yeah. But, yeah, for, like, that rule, it is specifically, like, a D&D inspired rule, and it's like, yeah, you can only use this once, but, yeah. One of these two games is, like, you can use it as long as you have the resources to pay for it. And I think you have to... Okay, actually, yeah, it might be in Break, because Break has more money than Beacon. But yeah, it's like every time you go back into town, you have to pay X amount of money for to refill your shop, or not your shop, your inventory.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's kind of like okay, everyone's in town, pay the
it's like
piper,
we have,
pick it off, mark it off.
Yeah, it's like, okay, let's pull our resources. We got 90 spare gold, so we can buy 9 points of inventory. Who needs it?
Gems. I like that.
Yeah, I do like that. Let's see. So, one of my next games, I believe you guys mentioned Numenera at some point earlier. Okay.
Yeah, Cypher Numenerica.
Yep. Okay, so that saves me a bit of time because Cypher and Numenera were both on my list.
Oh, okay.
With Cypher talking about how it is a very, it's very much like Valor in the sense of it is ungenred, and how Numenera is like, yeah, it's kind of your Dune Star Wars fanfic setting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Friend would be happy.
yeah, audience, if you haven't played or listened to anyone play Cypher or Numenera, it's very neat, very interesting. You are encouraged to use all of your magic items because you just keep getting more. Like there was one
one-time
actual play.
use kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one actual play I was listening to where one of the players was playing like a hunter, and so he went and he started field dressing this thing they killed, and the GM's like, "Okay, you got 3 relics from that." It's like, where was it holding this? What Parasite Eve dog with a sniper rifle garbage is this?
I haven't played too much of it, but these guys played a decent amount.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was well enjoyed.
Yeah, it seems from anyone. Arlo! I don't know if you heard him screaming just then.
A little bit, yeah.
But yeah, people should check this out. It's kind of a daunting read, but it is very interesting and very flexible. All right, and moving on from that is a game I actually plan to run at least a shorter campaign in the near future after one of my current campaigns wraps up, which is Dishonored 2D20. It's
Like the video game?
Yep.
Oh.
So yeah, it's not exactly fantasy, but it's not exactly modern. So I figured I could slide this in here, and I should probably get that link posted. Boop. All right, so yeah, the game book starts off with a fun little series of short comics that act as tone setters and visualizations of the game's mechanics. So, like, in between chapters, it'll be like, okay, here is an example of the characters performing their actions, and what that would look in a. Again, I like the art style, little quick comic. Let's see. The game, as you could probably guess, focuses mainly on rolling 2 or more d20s. So the gimmick with a 2d20 system is you want to roll below a target number. So Octung Cthulhu, I think, is the most popular 2d20 system, with Fallout probably being the next one under that. And yes, so you want to roll low. The higher the number, the easier it is to roll. But when you get a nat 20, it is despair, because that usually means something bad will happen. And the difficulty for tasks isn't just based on how high or low your target number is. It is also the number of successes the GM is looking for. Now, these numbers can range from 0 to 5, with 5 being absolute, nearly impossible unless you do some bull crap. And yeah, every number or every dice that you roll below that target number is a success, with a 1 on the dice, or 2 or 3, depending on some situations, being critical successes, counting as 2. Okay, yeah, so in Dishonored 2d20, your target number is determined by a combination of your skill and their style. So, like, the GM might ask the character, we'll say Ricky the Bruiser, in order to take a punch and be threatening about it, he would have to roll sturdy plus bold. And, then he's just, standing there taking that hit like a champ. Or if he has to chase after a pickpocket, he can't boldly sturdy himself to chase after this pickpocket. He would have to use his move stat plus swiftly to try and make up some ground. But because he's Ricky the Tank or whatever I just named him. That target number would be way lower than just being able to take a punch to pick a point.
Lower or higher?
Lower. You want your target number to be higher, but you want the things you roll to be lower.
Okay.
So, yeah, like in the example I gave, Jimothy the Fortress would have a high sturdy and a high boldly because he's like a bodyguard. He'd be a bold, sturdy man, but because he's so big, he can't really move that fast or that athletically. So his move and his swift stats would be lower, making it harder for him to succeed at those kinds of challenges.
Okay, I'm getting it.
Yeah, and then you have your talents, your feats, and your focuses, which all add some bonus or other to these rolls. Some can raise the target number to make things easier. Some will let you re-roll a number of dice. Some will increase your crit chance, or I don't know if there's one in Dishonored, but in Fallout 2d20, I believe there is a perk you can take that makes your critical failures less awful. Let's see. Oh, and so if you roll more successes than you need, so like if the GM is looking for a success of 2 and you roll 3 successes, you generate momentum. And that can be used for things like buying more D20s to get more successes, or you can create a truth of the scene that's related to what your character is doing right now. Like, oh, I'm chasing after this pickpocket. Well, I'm going to spend 2 momentum, and I'm going to say that there is a fruit cart that is set up in such a way that I can jump off of that onto some awnings and avoid the crowd while keeping pace with this guy. So yeah,
narrative mechanic.
Yeah,
I love those.
And you can also spend momentum to ask the GM a question about the current scene, and the GM has to answer the question honestly.
Okay, like Powered by the Apocalypse, but not. It's not a move. It's just like it's not a.
It is. You are spending a resource.
Yeah.
To learn a truth about the scene. Also, during combat, if a enemy misses you, then you can spend 2 momentum and counterattack the enemy. So combat is really expected to go back and forth quickly. And the players are not the only ones who have momentum. The GM also has momentum, but it is called chaos. And the GM can use it the same way as a player. Like, you can increase the difficulty of something. You can put negative truths in the scene. You can increase or decrease target number. You can make it harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the GM starts off with, I believe, 3 chaos at the start of a session. And the way the GM gets more chaos is very fun. The GM gets more chaos when the players do chaotic things, like causing a hubbub in town, or starting a fight, or killing their enemies. So it's like, hey, you want to be a hobo? Congratulations, you unlocked you murder hobo.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, you want to be a murder hobo?
Big difference.
Congratulations, you have just unlocked hard mode. And I can see that being fun, but also annoying in some cases. But a lot of the people I have seen running 2D20 systems aren't mean with their GM momentum. So, like,
fair.
Just get yourself a GM that's not a dirtbag.
You heard it here first.
The GM can also take 2 points of chaos instead of hindering you with the complication if you roll a nat 20.
Oh, like you're safe, but
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you have failed, but you failed in a normal way. That's just going to come back to bite you later.
I like that it's transparent for the players, though.
Oh yeah.
Mike says, like me.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
just one dumb idea I had while I was describing this to my partner was, okay, you have killed a dude. Congratulations. The GM gets a point of chaos. Well, later, the GM's going to spend that chaos to introduce a new enemy to the scene. It's the brother of that guy you killed. Oh, you killed him? Great. Guess who has a cousin?
Yeah.
It's just this entire family just drip feeding combatants to you because you keep killing their relatives. But yeah, and beyond momentum and chaos are void points. And
Hold on. Void and chaos?
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Are there order points?
no,
Okay.
that's
Close.
So yeah, void points are basically just a more powerful momentum, but you're only limited to 3 per character. The momentum is kind of just like a party-wide resource, but void is, like character by character basis. And if you gain more than 3 points without having a feat or a talent or something that gives you access to more, the additional ones are lost. So they are also a use them when you got them type situation.
Yeah.
And like momentum, they can be used to make truths, but unlike momentum, they don't have to be truths involving what your character is doing right now. So it could be like a player is just like, what would be cool if it just started thunderstorming right now in this scene. So I'm gonna spend one of my void points and it's just a downpour now. Let's see, and it can also be used to re-roll any number of dice that you've rolled during a check. So most void points would be used to avoid complications and nat 20s. But you can also force an encounter with a supernatural during either the current or the next session by spending a void point. So if you're just like, I want to encounter a witch. Like that's all my character wants to do right now. Just I want to encounter a witch, or I want to talk to the outsider. So here's my void point.
I feel like that's something Shadeed would use very often.
He doesn't need to.
Let's see. Bone charms kind of act how they do in the game. They're magic items that give you various advantages, from re-rolling certain skill rolls, like unarmed or strong or bold abilities, to being able to heal characters, or even something like silencing your footsteps. Yeah, they range the gambit of your utility powers. And void points are also used, like I mentioned forever ago, to power some of your void powers. So if your character has a outsider's mark, like Corvo in the game, they can start accessing the void powers, such as blinks, summon swarm, all that fun stuff. And each one costs void points, and you can level them up. I believe when you start, you are only given 3 powers.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it is suggested for the DM to determine what powers these are. But, again, this is probably best suited for a back and forth discussion with the player.
Absolutely.
And on top of all that, bone charms, void powers, the rune charms that your character would need to increase the ability of these void powers. So those kind of become your character's leveling ability outside of standard leveling. You can also get powerful enchanted items called artifacts. And artifacts are basically magic items that will give you a void power as long as you have that magic item. And if you get a set of them, they will give you a bonus for these magic items. Nope, that is not true. I am mixing that up with a game further down on the list. But yeah, the magic items or the artifacts rather, are very stupid powerful. And they're like a big boy reward.
So they're not like use them right when you get them kind of things. You're gonna want to hoard those.
A little bit. It's kind of like the difference between getting like a cape of billowing with a bone charm, and then like a +3 sword with an artifact, or a luck blade would be more apt, because it's like, here is your sword. Here's the stupid power it does that you, as a human, should not have access to. Because you're just fighting a dude on the street.
Sounds like champs.
Yeah, it is a very, very silly system. All right. And the next one on my list is, I believe this is the 2015 version of the Dragon Age RPG. It did have a previous version, but the more recent variant has all the important stuff rolled into it, such as the player's handbook. Also, just a sidebar, it bothers me so much when the player's handbook and the DMG are separate books. This one all right there.
Yeah.
My wallet cannot.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, so my first note for the Dragon Age RPG is, do you like Dragon Age and yearn for actually good stories from that world? Then this is the system for you.
Yo, the shade.
Yeah.
Slushy just immediately came to attention. Like, what?
I kid. I like Dragon Age. I should say I like the characters of Dragon Age, because, let's be honest, overarching plot could use some work. Speaking of use some work, it is similar in the sense of Marvel RPG, in the fact that it uses 3d6 for all of its checks, and one of those dice is special. That dice is called the Dragon Dice. It doesn't really do anything. It's just there. The one thing the Dragon Dice does is it tells you how many stunt points you gain whenever you roll a double. So, yeah, like if you roll a 2, and a 4, and the Dragon Dice was the 4, then you get 4 stunt points that you can then spend on stunts that kind of makes combat more cinematic and exciting, but there also aren't that many stunts you can perform. So, from my understanding, a player will typically find what stunt works best for them. So then every time a stunt happens, it's like, okay, I'm going to charge. And that's just going to be the stunt I always get, because that's the one that's best for my character.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're not limited to only using charge, but that's the one that would make sense. Let's see. The book also starts off with character creation, like right out of the gate, which I personally really appreciate. Because I don't know if I just learned games backwards, but I feel like I learned more about a tabletop from learning how to build a character than to reading how checks work.
Yeah.
And every time I get a player that's like, I don't know that system, it's like, don't worry about it. I'll just show you how to build the character, and then I'll tell you how the game works afterwards. But yeah, and so yeah, much like with the Dragon Age, you have your character's origin or their ancestry, and that will determine what your classes you can be. So, due to the lore of Dragon Age, dwarves cannot be mages. So if you pick any origin, background, ancestry thing that has dwarf in it, you might be locked into warrior, or you might be locked into rogue, or you might have access to warrior and rogue, but you cannot be a mage. Also, kind of piggybacking off of that, your classes are narrowed down to just mage, warrior, and rogue, with plenty of sub options, again, like the game, to personalize your own little dude.
I think we're talking not about races, but attributes in a similar way of like just give like 3 attributes, but then give a bunch of abilities that are tied to those attributes, but like have bigger bonuses than the attributes and stuff. So it's simple at the top, but then you can really go into detail later.
Yeah, it gets more granular. But yeah, the Dragon Age RPG also seems like an interesting game to me. I also just liked the character creation of it. Let's
Potentially get Slushy Puffs back on the screen.
For a
She's
Dragon
on
Age.
campaign with us. Get her back.
Let's see. Okay, the next game on my list, all right, everyone get your shots ready, is inspired by Final Fantasy. It is Fabula Ultima.
Okay.
Fabula.
Yeah, it takes heavy inspiration from JRPGs like Final Fantasy and various tactics games. It has no canonical world setting, so it's kind of like a Cypher Core or Valor, in the sense of like it's just all up to the GM. It is heavily fantasy flavored because obviously, but yeah, I'm sure you could spin this sci-fi or modern if you wanted.
So there's no world of Fabula Ultima.
There is not. Let's see. The game uses the full set of RPG dice. It has an extensive list of options for making the world, and kind of suggests to make the world as a group with your players.
Mm-hmm.
So you can roll on the table for, like what you want this world of fantasy and high adventure to be, or you can be like, okay, players, what do you want to have an adventure in? And just kind of build the world along with the characters in a session 0.
Is this a 1 book or a 2 book?
It's a series. They have free intros to the system books with some pre-built characters. But yeah, I think they have the main book and maybe a supplemental out right now. But yeah, press start and load game, I think, are like the free trials, or the titles for the free books. Let's see. Yeah, like with Beacon, your character has a identity and a theme that quickly describes the character. So Margor the Undefined, or whoever our little Beacon boy was. And yeah, you can also call in that title whenever it's appropriate. And much like with Beacon, your character's identity and their theme can change over the course of the adventures. Like, the noble prince to, the betrayed prince, the recrowned king, so on and so forth. But one thing this game does that I think is actually kind of interesting is it also has a segment for bonds. So a character's bond quickly describes how they feel towards some other characters. Bond can be created during downtime or when the story says so. And you can only carry 6 bonds at the same time. And basically what a bond is you have these 3 sets of emotions, like loyalty to hatred, superiority to inferiority, trust and murder, and they're all on like tiers of a list. So it's like, okay, this is my like commanding officer. So I have loyalty and I have inferiority towards him. And so whenever you would make any kind of roll with that character, you would have your stat and you would have whatever bonus, and then you would have your bond, which as you have 2 points of emotions attached to this character, you would get a +2. And bonds never seem to inflict a penalty unless, I suppose, the enemy would be rolling.
Mhm.
But yeah, however many emotions you have attached to the bond, up to 3, gives you a bonus. And the fun thing that it just makes me think of Gurren Lagann is a bond can exist beyond the character's death. So your emotions towards that character can outlive them.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And like during like I said, during downtime, you can just be like, I'm suddenly indifferent towards this character, and just erase one of your 6 bonds to make room for a new one.
Damn. Can't like resolve it somehow, and then...
Yeah.
I see us doing that so often.
This
that
isn't
guy,
important
yeah,
anymore.
fuck him. Whatever. Give those bonds.
But Boblin the Goblin, gotta keep that bond.
Yeah, you got it.
Never gonna see him again, but we can't let go of it.
Well, it's too
And
late.
then he comes back and like, no.
So yeah, and then much like a 2d20 system, the characters and the GM have a resource. For the characters, it is the Fabula points, and for the GM, it is the Ultima points. And unlike a d20 system, they are used in different manners. So for Fabula points, the PCs can use them to invoke their traits or their bonds. So yeah, like it's not like Beacon where it's like, okay, your title makes sense to use in this thing, so you'll get a free thing. It's like, I think my title counts here, so I'm going to spend this resource to use it. You can also use it like inspiration to re-roll things, or you can use it to create a truth in the scene. You can only start like from level 1. You get 3 Fabula points for free, and you have to earn any additional ones through acts of outrageous cinematic moments. Like like I said, it's like inspiration. You got to earn these points.
GM, up to the GM's discretion.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. Ultima points, on the other hand, are used by the GM, and they are very specifically a villain power. And these are used to do one of 2 things for the villain. 1, the villain can make a dramatic escape when they are defeated. And, it's your classic, you might have beaten me this time, but I'll get you, and flies off on the back of a dragon. Or you can phase change. And you can just...
Second form?
Yes, full-on second form. The villain gets all their HP back. They go up a rank in difficulty, but they can no longer escape the fight dramatically.
They're committed.
Ride or die.
Yeah, I think it mentions something like that in the book, where it's like a villain who has decided to go to their second form has just completely disregarded the chance for escape.
That's sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like that use of a GM resources.
Like you wait until like the next player would probably kill them, and then you use your points.
Oh yeah.
No.
Let's see. Oh yeah, initiative is handled a lot like Lancer, where the combat goes back and forth between the two factions. Of course, whatever faction rolled highest first goes. And okay. So this is a rule that I very much appreciate, where if your character is set to if your character dies in combat, you have a chance for a heroic sacrifice. And yeah, it's basically like, okay, your character is at negative 50 HP. They are dead. What do you want to do to make that worthwhile and cinematic? And like, it kind of gives you carte blanche to do the heroic sacrifice. Like, you can tackle the villain out of his castle, or you can hold back the army of approaching skeletons, or what have you. The biggest I guess price for the heroic sacrifice is they cannot be revived.
Oh.
Yeah. And I just think that's a very fun system and a very fun rule. Like it does kind of hand wave it of like, well, they might be able to be revived, but typically someone who sacrifices themselves like made peace with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in the Marvel verse, they're always gonna come back.
Oh, yeah.
There's just no question.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Oh. We just gave Mike so many ideas.
Yeah.
See you in chat there.
Yeah, Slushy Puffs called me out. That's
Oh.
I love doing that. Using the
So
characters as self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Love heroic sacrifices.
Because then you get to play a new character after.
Yeah, you get to play a new character, and you have a character who had a badass exit.
Yeah.
Let's see, but yeah, Fabula Ultima, Beacon, and Break are kind of like the current holy trifecta of, hey, I want to play Final Fantasy. What game should I play to play Final Fantasy? Because the Final Fantasy 14 book isn't going to be either available, usable, or affordable.
Yeah.
Are they making one?
Yeah,
Oh,
They are-
interesting.
they are making Final Fantasy 14, the MMORPG. RPG.
Oh god. That's very Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty absurd.
Where's the
Uh,
Kingdom Hearts RPG 2.0 reloaded? Mastered?
1 over
2.8.
347 days.
Dang.
But yeah,
You were right, man. I thought you were just confident for no reason, but every one of these, I'm like, I could see myself at least
Yeah.
reading the whole manual.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Now we got links too. So anyone
Yeah,
who's
seriously.
can join our Discord and
Yeah, this is
also
incredible.
partake in those links and read for themselves.
Yeah, at least check out the free material that some of these books put out. It's it also gives you like a good taste test of like, do I want to sit down and learn this full game?
Mhm.
Okay, so the next game I have,
This will, in the interest of time, probably be the last one. So
okay, that makes sense because this
Yeah.
one is kind of an interesting one. So I want to start this off by saying I don't really know if it's obvious, but I'm a white boy from Arkansas in America, and this here game is from the Philippines.
Ooh.
So this game is a Filipino-made game called Gubat Banwa, it is a it's a game using Filipino culture and mythology and legend as its like springboard instead of the more Eurocentric games that I have mentioned previously. The game is designed to easily swap from political melodrama to martial arts action film to a full-on war campaign. Much like a couple of others on this list, it functions with the battle grid in mind. So yeah, just if you like battle grids, this one might be worth it looking into. PCs in this setting are called, and again, apologies for my pronunciation, Karanganan, which basically means honor, and the GM is referred to as a malagad, which basically means like a spirit, like a spirit companion or the spirit world. The dice are referred to as teeth. So skills checks are referred to as casting the crocodile's teeth. Attack checks are attack teeth, so on and so forth. In order to mark progression from, like, for long-term projects such as forging a new weapon to even building a new settlement, you use moons, and it is done in a way of like you make a circle and then you just draw increasingly small crescent moons to determine how much time it takes to do an action. So like, forging a dagger, that'll take 4 moons. Forging a settlement, that might take like 30 moons. And it's just a way that you're able to mark progress for things that have increasingly more plot relevance.
Is that like in-game night time? Like
Or like
days?
months?
It's units of time.
Okay. Okay, into 2 minutes.
So yeah, each moon is a unit of time. Much like Beacon, money isn't as big of a thing in this world. So what determines your character's social standing and bartering power is your honor. And the higher your honor, the more places you can get into legitimately, and the more things you can buy. The lower your honor to, I believe this one might be to a -10. Like the more of a scumbag you are, and the less people want to associate with you. And once you hit like level 5 or level 10 of negative honors, your character just becomes a NPC villain. But again, I could see a GM having a thing set up where it's like, you have no honor, but you gotta like build up from that -5 so that you can clear your name or what have you. Let's see. And kind of like a counterpoint to honor is a debt system. And debt basically is a mechanic to indicate how much power someone has over another person. So yeah, it could be like a boss or a superior officer, what have you, but you would be technically under their debt. And debt can be canceled out by either paying it with points of honor, like a 1-to-1, or performing a side quest for the debt holder. Let's see. Much like a good chunk of the games on this list, there are downtime actions. One such action that I got a kick out of is you can just throw a party.
Those are always important.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. The book includes charts upon charts upon charts of rollable tables. One of those is how to quickly roll up a quick dungeon crawl or a raid. The amount of lore for this game is almost overwhelming. Like, I don't know if anyone else has Coyote and Crow, but this is how thick Coyote and Crow is. So much of this is lore about the setting, because it's a alternate, timeline of America where colonizing never happened. But yeah, it's like 300 pages until you get to mechanics in this game.
Wow.
And
What the heck?
yeah, and it's all fascinating. Much like how it is with the Gubat Banwa, where it's like, this is all fascinating, but this is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I will gladly read a book that takes place in this setting, but I want to learn how to run this game, please.
I like that they put the lore stuff before the mechanics.
Oh yeah.
I want to make sure you get through it first.
It's like a recipe online. You got to read through the recipe writer's lore, and then you get to the recipe.
And in fact, Gunbot does the recipe thing of like, we're in the chapter where it's time for character creation. Well, just hold on a second. We got to talk about this wandering hero who's fighting crocodiles in the swamp. But yeah, that, like I said, it is fascinating to read the lore that people have come up with for this book. So yeah, one of the other terminologies that have been altered for this setting is the turn order has been renamed to the rhythm, or the rhythm of war. And during your turn, or a fulmination, as it is called in the book, you get 3 beats of the war drum. And basically that is how many actions you can perform. Or basically your action economy. So you get 3 beats, and each item each action costs a number of beats that are typically 1, but sometimes for like your more specialized abilities, they might cost 2 or all 3 of your beats. And to promote the action movie setting of the game, instead, oh no, wait, I skipped this line. But yeah, to promote it being a kind of action movie type game, each Karanganan starts combat with max HP and can only die if it is either dramatically appropriate or they did something dumb. It is encouraged in the game that when a character is to die in combat, the players can get together and veto that death. But there's also the out of, instead of dying, the Karanganan can instead become an NPC. Let's see. And yeah, once you get taken down to 0 HP, you can still like stand around and fight and do that. But much like with Break, if you take a direct hit again after reaching 0 HP, you'll roll on a wound consequence table. And until the end of combat, you're out of combat. But yeah, wound consequences, they range anywhere from a scar to a missing limb. Let's see. Character building, it feels pretty in-depth. I didn't think to make any notes about how it feels pretty in-depth, but it is, apparently.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Let's see. PC advancement is separated into acts, like a movie or any kind of story, with each act covering 3 levels. So 0, 1, and 2 for Act 1, 3, 4, and 5 for Act 2, 6, 7, 8 for Act 3. And there are 25 classes or disciplines that are separated into 5 styles, and the styles kind of act like your role. So you have Sentinel disciplines, which are your tanks. You have your Raiders, which are your DPSs. Your Sharpshooters for range. Your Witches for area control. and your mediums for support. And this is a game that was confusing with Dishonored, where you have magic items that give you basically free feats or bonuses or what have you. And if you get, I believe, 2 to 3, whatever's listed, of the same type of item, then you'll get a bonus, which is pretty significant. Okay. So the magic items are called Anting or Anting. ANTING -ANTING. So however that is said in the Filipino language is what that word is. And the main thing to keep you from just stacking on benefit after benefit after benefit of Antings is that the PCs can only use a handful of them. So, and these are determined by what act of the story you're in. So in Act 1, you can only have 2 of these items. You can use up to 3 in Act 2 and actually start getting your bonus, and up to Act 4 or up to 4 in Act 3. Yeah, and it's one of these systems where it's like, okay, you have hit level 8, you're at the end of Act 3. Your characters are kind of gods now. But yeah, and I think they even have rules for straight up fighting with a god. And I actually really like those rules, because it is, if you are fighting with a god, you are constantly fighting with penalties because it's a hecking god.
God.
But yeah.
Makes complete sense.
But yeah, character in depth, I just remembered why it is so in depth, or character creation is in depth. And it is because it is very granular as to how you build your character. So you pick what element they're aligned with. You can pick like their ancestry, like what species they are. Then you pick their faction, and then you pick this, that, and the other. And like, I feel like it is actually not that in depth when compared to D&D. It's just again, like a Eurocentric white American viewing this game by Filipinos, basically for Filipinos, and being overwhelmed by the amount of terminology. But yeah, also again, much like Coyote and Crow, one of the first things that the book tells you is like, hey, here's some hints for non-Filipino players. Hint number 1, just don't be racist. Hint number 2, have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, usually a good rule.
That sounded nice.
Yeah. But yeah, like they gotta put it in because they know someone's gonna be a dirtbag about it.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, let's see. How much of this list did I get through? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
At least
7.
Made a little dent.
8. Oh, 7. 7, and I skipped Cypher, and basically I skipped Pathfinder 2e because it's Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I actually got a good bit of the way through this.
Yeah.
And I got through my biggest hurdle with the Gunbot Banwa.
Hey, do well.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, you really... Oh. Because we're also built, like, we're slowly building our own system, and it helps to know what else is out there other than D&D. And there's some things here that, like, we've touched on as ideas, so then to see it be an actual mechanic, I really want to play.
Yeah, we can see how it works, see, like, the kinks and...
Yeah, I would definitely recommend like reading through any or all of these for people who are interested in making their own game, because they all share some level of DNA with one another, and that helps you like cherry pick what you like from each system. And also, some of these, like I said, are Kickstartered, and you can easily just get into contact with the devs and be like, "Hey, how did you balance this?"
Okay,
And like,
homework,
there's
boys.
like I'm in the I'm in the Discord for Break, and it is just constantly like, hey, hey devs, how can I do this? Or is there a rule for this? And they're like, we don't really have anything planned for that, but if you wanted to homebrew it, like, you could do this or that or the other, and it's like yeah, no, like you can do this if you take like this skill on this page, and yeah, like, oh, we built this entire subclass of character purely based off of the mom from Kiki's Delivery Service because we just thought she was cool. That is only a slight exaggeration. There is a. I shut the TV out, so I don't want to go through getting that. So I just get my physical copy of Break. There is a class which is one of those classes where I just want to play it because screw everything else. I just want to play this class. It is I believe it is a Factorio. Oh. And what a Factorio is they are your super support. They have the big backpack. They have the cooking stuff. Yep. So yeah, they are your fantasy adventure.
Fortunately, I think the.
Oh, it makes you disagree.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's kind of there. We got it.
Yeah, but yeah, it is the factotum, and they're kind of your alchemist, your chef, your cook. But also, because their backpack is so big for adventures, their backpack is counted as a blunt weapon that they are proficient in.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You have the strength to carry that around, like, already.
Yeah, it's a weapon. I want to thank you, John. We were a little over time, but well worth the few minutes. No,
yes, we have more TTRPG knowledge.
What you have to say. Hopefully, we get our mitts on one of these and invite you to come and try it or play it if you've already played it.
I'd love to play any of these.
Yeah. Okay.
Because otherwise, I'm going to be on the other side and GMing one of them. I'm actually planning on using Break to run a Halloween-themed campaign for my podcast.
Very nice.
Sounds like a good idea.
Well, speaking of your podcast, why don't you remind the people where to find you?
Cool plug.
My podcast? Well, golly gee. My podcast is called Bacon Flavored Pods or Bacon Flavored Podcasts. Just Google it, it'll show up. It's on Spotify, Podbean, what have you. And yeah, if it hasn't been obvious until now, I basically play everything and anything that's not Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or just like any of the top 15 results of if you type in actual play podcast. Which is just D&D, if I'm being honest. You might hit Lancer and be lucky, or Starfinder, but
changing up a little bit.
Yeah, and yeah, the whole point of the podcast is like, hey, D&D is not the only game out there to play. You can play these other games, and they might have mechanics that work better for you. Voice cracked. But yeah, they might have mechanics better for you as a player or a GM than D&D does. Or it might just do something really weird and you're just like, huh, that's neat. I want to play in that sandbox for a little while.
Well, I will be checking out the Bacon Flavored Podcast, even though I already have, secretly.
Oh boy.
Why keep it a secret?
Because if somebody tells me that they watch what I do, I immediately recoil into my shell.
Yeah, I just disassociate when people say they listen to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hey, I listened to your podcast. Great. I'm glad that's happening to someone else.
You can disassociate with us over on our Discord, which is pinned in the chat. Otherwise, find us on TikTok and Instagram for clips and memes. X for random posting, but probably not for long. Our YouTube has all of our VODs. This one will be going up as well. Come back
boy.
on Thursday, where we're going to be playing Aglaron High.
Yeah, it was gonna be Aglaron.
Yes. Going on a beautiful adventure out into the wastelands as we continue our journey. Until then, we are the Hexagon plus John, Hexa+John, and we are Hexagon, and you're trash.
Oh, that's good.
okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.